April 28, 2026, Negeri Sembilan's test of power and principle when constitutional order meets political ambition. Negeri Sembilan's current political institutional conflict is less a crisis of numbers than a test of constitutional maturity. The state's unique adat-based governance framework, anchored by the Tuanku Yang di-Pertuan and the Undang Yang Empat, is now intersecting with factional manoeuvring within UMNO, recalibration within the MADANI Unity Government, and opportunistic repositioning by Perikatan Nasional. The central question is not who claims legitimacy, but who respects it when it constrains political convenience. At the core of the issue lies a familiar pattern. Internal UMNO factions attempting to recalibrate influence within a coalition structure that demands discipline. The Menteri Besar's position, constitutionally grounded and reinforced through the Negeri Sembilan system, should in principle be insulated from episodic factional pressure. Yet developments suggest otherwise. What is unfolding is not a legal vacuum, but a political contest layered onto a system that was designed precisely to prevent instability. The who is therefore not ambiguous. It involves competing UMNO factions, leadership calculations within 𝙳𝚊𝚑𝚍's camp, the broader stabilizing intent of Anwar Ibrahim's administration, and the institutional authority of the Tuanku Yang di-Pertuan acting in consultation with the Undang Yang Empat. The what is equally clear, an attempt, subtle or otherwise, to influence political outcomes in ways that test the boundaries of constitutional propriety. Timing, as always, is instructive. The friction emerges in a pre-election environment where political actors are recalibrating positions, consolidating influence, and testing institutional limits. Such moments often reveal whether governance frameworks function as guardrails or mere formalities. Negeri Sembilan's system, with its layered constitutional and customary authority, is designed to act as the former. Whether political actors respect that design is now under scrutiny. From a governance perspective, the Menteri Besar's legitimacy is not derived from factional endorsement, but from constitutional process. The involvement of the Tuanku Yang di-Pertuan and the Undang Yang Empat introduces a level of institutional oversight that should, in theory, neutralize political volatility. When factions attempt to reinterpret or challenge that structure, the issue is no longer political disagreement, but institutional discipline. This is where the divergence between Anwar Ibrahim and 𝙳𝚊𝚑𝚍 becomes analytically significant. Anwar Ibrahim's position, based on observable policy posture, reflects a preference for institutional continuity and coalition stability. The Madani framework depends on predictability. It cannot afford episodic disruptions driven by internal factional recalibration. 𝙳𝚊𝚑𝚍, on the other hand, must navigate internal UMNO pressures that often prioritize party consolidation over coalition equilibrium. The tension is not necessarily confrontational, but it is structurally embedded. One side is managing a national coalition, the other is managing a party with unresolved internal alignments. Perikatan Nasional's stance adds another layer of complexity. Its positioning appears less anchored in constitutional consistency and more in political opportunity. When governance frameworks are respected, opposition critique should focus on policy alternatives. When the same frameworks are selectively challenged, the narrative begins to resemble tactical opportunism. The inconsistency is difficult to ignore. Institutional legitimacy is defended when advantageous and questioned when inconvenient. The how of this conflict is therefore as important as the why. Political actors are not openly dismantling institutional structures. They are testing their elasticity. This is done through narrative framing, selective interpretation of constitutional norms, and the amplification of factional grievances. It is a familiar strategy, though not necessarily a sustainable one. Institutions, once perceived as negotiable, lose their stabilizing function. From an economic perspective, the implications are not abstract. Governance credibility directly influences investor confidence, particularly in a state like Negeri Sembilan, where political stability is intertwined with development planning. Investors are less concerned with political competition than with institutional predictability. When governance appears contingent on factional dynamics, risk premia adjust accordingly. The broader lesson is straightforward. Constitutional systems are not self-enforcing. They rely on political actors to respect both the letter and the spirit of the law. Negeri Sembilan's framework, with its integration of adat and constitutional authority, provides a robust structure. The current tension is therefore not a failure of the system, but a test of political discipline within it. Moving forward, several practical steps are necessary. First, all parties must reaffirm the constitutional role of the Tuanku Yang, di-Pertuan Besar, and the Undang Yang Empat as final arbiters within the state framework. Second, UMNO leadership must address internal factionalism through structured mechanisms rather than externalizing it into governance disputes. Third, the Madani administration must maintain a consistent stance that prioritizes institutional continuity over short-term political accommodation. Finally, opposition actors must align critique with constitutional consistency if they are to be regarded as credible alternatives. Negeri Sembilan's situation ultimately illustrates a broader national truth. Political credibility is no longer determined by assertion, but by adherence to institutional order. Stability is not merely declared, it is demonstrated through discipline. Those who treat constitutional frameworks as flexible instruments may find that markets, voters, and institutions themselves are far less accommodating. Thank you all for tuning in and supporting my podcast news channel. Your time, attention, and engagement truly mean a great deal. I sincerely appreciate your continued support and thoughtful viewership. Join, follow, like, and share.